Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Tutima Grand Flieger Classic Chronograph, reference 6402-2. This is a continuation of a long line of Tutima pilot watches that began, I believe, in the 1930s, and you see a modern watch which continues the look of those classics. Tutima has a combination of both modern and I'll call it vintage style pilot watches. This is again among the more vintage style, and they keep sort of recreating this particular type of Flieger chronograph every couple of years. This newest one has a couple of interesting changes to it. The case is 43 millimeters wide, so wouldn't call it a giant watch, but it's by no means a small watch, and it feels bigger than it is because the case is a full 16 millimeters thick. Inside the watch is a movement that Tutima calls their caliber 320. It's essentially a Swiss out of Valjo 7750, which has been reworked by them a little bit. It's got a custom rotor. It's nice to view through the case back there. Mechanically, it's what you expect. 4 hertz, about 2 days of power reserve, 12-hour chronograph with a date. I like how they sort of minimalized the running second style there to maximize the design of the chronograph minutes and hours. And you can see a little bit of red indicators there for the chronograph hands, which is nice. The actual main dial is a deep gray, where the subdials here at the top and the bottom are black, and so that creates a little bit of an interesting contrast, which you actually don't notice at first, but as you move it around and play with the light, you're like, oh yeah, those are a different color. Traditional style Flieger hands there, which they're kind of like old-timey, but they work well. And it's always great because there's a very obvious difference between the hour hand and the minute hand. A mostly full track of Arabic hour numerals. Let's start the chronograph there, just because it's fun to do. You have a coined edge style rotating bezel, rotates in 2 directions, and the only indicator is that red point at top, which is used as a sort of rudimentary rotating bezel. I think that the diver style bezels really sort of made them modern because they had clicks, they moved only one direction. This one just kind of free spins. It's secure, it's done well, like it's not just moving around, like you can't just move it like that. You have to put a little bit of pressure to move it, but it's nicely done. But again, with just one indicator there, it's not necessarily as useful, but there's other features that you can use with it as well. I'm not an expert on single indicator rotating bezels. We'll have to do a guide on that someday, right? One of the things that's funny here is on the side of the case, it just says chronometer. It is a chronometer, but it has it printed there on the side of the case. I mean, I like that they print stuff on the side of the case. I don't know why they need to remind you that the movement is chronometer certified. I wonder if it's German chronometer certified, which is a little bit different than Swiss chronometer certified. I will have to find that out. Attached to the case, and it's available on a strap as well, but it's really hard to resist this, I guess it's a 6-link bracelet here, which just looks great. Actually, it's a 7-link bracelet. It's hard to count because they're not all the same. It's smooth on the inside. As you can see, or I guess flat, and when you put it on, it just sits against the wrist so nicely. It's such a comfortable fit. There's a butterfly style deployment there with the Tutima name, so it's flat. Like I said, it wraps around your wrist in the nicest way. The design isn't for everyone. I happen to like it because I like the sort of beaded look there. It's got a little bit of a visual fascination. It's kind of like a little bit of like chainmail for the wrist there, right? It's like it's not boring like just your typical 3-link bracelet. It has a little bit more character, but it looks strong to it. It doesn't look feminine, and that's hard to do, to get a very masculine looking yet timeless bracelet on a watch. For the Grand Flieger Classic Chronograph, you have a look that you've seen before, but again, with the little color differences, there's just sort of a hint of a little bit of change to it. So if you have some of the watches from the past made by Tutima, you might not have like a huge reason to upgrade, but again, the size is bigger, slightly more modern in terms of the appointments, in terms of how everything goes together. But at the end of the day, this is sort of a look that we've seen for a while and we quite like. A couple years ago, Tutima I don't want to say they rebranded themselves, but they sort of relaunched, and they have a lot of watches with in-house movements. This is not one of them, but but it's produced to sort of mimic the look and feel of some of the other Tutimas, which have grown in size, become a little bit more masculine, tried to sort of identify a distinct kind of visual identity. So when you see the watch, you're like, hey, that's a Tutima, and I think they're getting very close to that direction. Some of the watches, this one, definitely people who know watches know that it's a Tutima. Other people might look at it and not be sure, but overall it's handsome. It functions very well as a sports watch. It's got a good fashionability to it. It's hard to say like, hey, a classic looking pilot watch doesn't go with what you're wearing, because it most often always does, and I think it's overall nice. Competitive space for sure, a lot of options when you're looking for pilots' chronographs, but this is a cool one, and that German sort of engineering and fit and finish and construction quality is great. Price for the Tutima Grand Flieger Classic Chronograph, reference 6402-02, is $5,500, and you can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch too. Thanks.